Hello and welcome to the Last Sunset News for this week. As always, we bring you local and international news, sports news, stories from the community, the weather for the weekend, and economic indicators. First, in today's news, the verdict of Judge Shafimana Uyetele in the case of Thomas Florin, expected this Friday, has been postponed to next Friday, March 4. Florin, who had filed an application for remission of sentence at the Windhoek High Court, must now wait another week for the verdict. Florin was sentenced in 1999 to life imprisonment after being found guilty of the murder of his then-wife, Monica. Now, January 2022 tourism occupancy figures collected by the Hospitality Association of Namibia have revealed a decline compared to January last year, emphasizing the need for Namibia to act now and leave no stone unturned to position itself as an attractive and accessible and desirable travel destination. It is high time for Namibia to stand up united to ensure tourism recovery and to unlock new horizons for this beautiful country. As such, the Han occupancy report, reflecting an overall room occupancy of only 18.5%, is almost 2% lower than in January 2021. Now, a report on the impact of COVID-19 on journalism published this week by the African Editors Forum found that the pandemic has accelerated many challenges facing the media industry already. Namibia was one of the 16 countries in which this research was conducted under the auspices of UNESCO. Journalists said that they often faced problems with reporting from the field and access to sources, especially at the start of the pandemic. Official and financial constraints added to frustration, and in general, journalists faced all the other stresses people experienced across the globe. The media, like other sectors, also reported job losses and pay cuts because of the pandemic. One digit can make a huge difference, especially in tough economic times when expenditure on state-owned enterprises by a heavily indebted government is very closely monitored. Now, according to the Ministry of Finance, the amount of 154 million Namibian dollars allocated to the Namibian Press Agency, known as NAMPA, in the budget tabled yesterday in the National Assembly is a typing error. Officials informed Sunset News that this mistake will be rectified on Monday. The stated amount is more than tenfold the annual allocated amount of 14 million Namibian dollars for the state's press agency. Students registered for the public health course at UNAM Oshakati campus are protesting the university's decision to discontinue the course, citing difficulties to accredit the qualification with the Health Professions Council of Namibia. The university is now compelling students to do a course in population studies, which is not what the students applied or registered for. The Oshana Regional Executive Committee is on the ground supporting the students' plight. Have a look.
Down population studies, down.
Down population studies, down.
We want public health.
We want public health.
We want public health.
We want public health.
Down population studies, down.
Down population studies, down.
Down population studies,
down. Down population studies,
down.
down.
We want public health.
We want public health.
We want public health.
We want public health.
We demand answers now.
Now, President Hage Geingob says women serving in the party have helped bring liberation to all Namibians and remain a backbone of the SWAPO party. He made the comments at a congress underway to elect the secretary of the SWAPO party's Women's Council, which kicked off today. According to Geingob, under a SWAPO-led government, Namibia ranks among leading countries with leading participation of women in parliament, encouraging delegates who are to elect new leadership for the Women's Council. Geingob said he was confident of the role women are to play in Namibia. All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, pavements can sometimes be a little bland, which is why it's always fascinating when you find a rainbow on a pavement. More on that in our community talk after the break. May not have noticed this yet, but the sidewalk in front of the Brewers Market in Windhoek's Taal Street underwent a bit of a facelift recently, with it now being decorated in beautiful colors of the rainbow. Yana Marie Smith reports.
The rainbow sidewalk that is painted outside of the Brewers Market is the second rainbow sidewalk in Africa, and it is the first LGBTQ historic landmark for Namibia. And the rainbow sidewalk commemorated Human Rights Day on the 10th of December 2021, but it also celebrated the end of Pride Week, which was an intersectional week of celebrating our identities and LGBTQ persons and women's fight for reproductive justice as well. Why we did this was because representation and visibility matters. We know that state-sanctioned homophobic policies has pushed our community onto the margins of society. And one of the strongest tools we as LGBTQ persons have, coming out together in community, makes us stronger. And when we bring ourselves out of the shadow, we inspire many of our fellow LGBTQ brothers, sisters, gender non-conforming families to take up space. And because space has been denied for us, and as I've said, we've been pushed back into the closet and having our dignity and humanity stripped away from us. This rainbow sidewalk basically says we are here, we are queer, we are going nowhere, and this is our country too. And the rainbow sidewalk, also with all its colors and its diversity, celebrates our community's diversity, gender diversity, sexual diversity, our identities. It also celebrates inclusivity as well. Each color has a very unique meaning and message to LGBTQ persons. But all in all, the rainbow sidewalk is about community. It's about visibility, and it's about representation, and it's about building a society based on love and not hate. After we painted the sidewalk, you've seen many folks, LGBTQ persons, young, old, allies come out, take pictures. Like I said, it is a landmark, and it means so much to so many people, and so many people were happy to see Windhoek become a inclusive community, an inclusive city that celebrates its very large, prominent LGBTQ social community. So the reason why we chose to have the rainbow sidewalk at the Brewers Market is because this place is formerly known as the Warehouse Theatre. And the Warehouse Theatre has been known in the LGBTQ community as a safe and inclusive space where we can come out, celebrate our sexuality, celebrate our identity, and most importantly, celebrate our right to love freely without any harassment, without any discrimination, but it's just a safe space. And to a large number of LGBTQ persons, we know how important safe spaces are for us and for our community, and how very impactful they can be to help uplift us together.
Now, our story of the day might make you rethink your relationship with snakes. Stick around, more after the break. Now, a large mamba was removed from a tree in a residential area last week, with many taking to social media asking why the snake was removed and not killed. Yolanda now talks to the snake catcher. Have a look.
Photos of a snake feeding on weaver birds in Brakwater has made waves on social media this past week, and I speak to Kwesi Hen, who removed the snake, as to why the snake was removed.
I received a phone call about a possible cobra in a tree that was raiding some weaver nests, and I drove out to Brakwater and found a snake in someone's residence on their property, and it turned out to be a black mamba, and the snake was obviously in the tree, and it had been eating some baby weavers, some chicks. And I basically had to remove the snake because of the fact that there were people on the earth, and other animals as well. And the reason for the removal is obviously that there's no human and snake conflict, that nobody gets bitten, and also that the snake doesn't get killed. So the reason for relocating is just for everybody's safety and also the animal safety. And we also measured the snake, and it officially measured in at 2.4 meters. And yes, it was a very rainy day, a very slippery situation, but we managed to get the snake out of the tree safely, and we contained it and removed it for them.
Now, the National Financial Budget was delivered yesterday by Honorable Minister Ipumbu Shimi. And after the break in our economic news, we'll be looking at a budget dissection. Stay with us. In tonight's economic news, the boosting of economic growth to maintain and create employment is crucial, says PwC Namibia's senior country partner Chantal Hasselman. She spoke this morning at a budget dissection hosted by the group, as well as Standard Bank Namibia, Liberty Namibia, and Namibia Media Holdings. Employment is important as it allows households to contribute to government coffers in terms of personal income tax and value-added tax on goods and services. In 2022-23, individual income tax will contribute 29% to total government revenue, while VAT will be 23%. Johan now from PwC discusses some of these issues.
We can see the picture is changing. We were at 67% last year. That's going up to about 71% now. What's even more worrying is that in the mid-year budget speech, the expectation is that this will increase to about 74%. So it's a real problem, and I think the minister also said that it's one of the key considerations and key sort of things that we need to change. We agree with everything that James said, and we believe that the only way to really get out of this is in terms of new economic growth, new projects into the country, and when one thinks about generating more tax revenue, I think it's important to not only look at the tax rate in terms of our tax rate is 32%. If we take the example that Nelson said about Singapore as well, the moment that you drop the rate for income tax, for instance, and it attracts additional investment, yes, you may lose 3 or 4% in terms of your income tax revenue. But the knock-on effect of that, of people entering the country for a new project, the payroll taxes that arise from that, from new employment opportunities, those people spend at local shops. It's got a massive knock-on effect. It's difficult to measure, but it has a massive impact on the economy. So it's something that we definitely agree with, and we always try to motivate in our submissions towards the Ministry of Finance that we have to take the long-term view, the bigger picture view, because that's the only way we're going to solve this problem. As you can see, there's a 12.3% increase in debt just from the current year to the prior year. And as long as we stay in a deficit, which we'll get to a bit later, that number is not going to change. We're going to keep lending and lending to fund ourselves. But this is the overall picture. So we're in that deficit. We need to get out of it. There's lots of plans to be made, and we're excited that we can, as well, partner with government in how we can take this forward.
Now, in the next story, oil prices slipped today after sharp rises in the session on concern over potential global supply disruptions from sanctions on major crude exporter Russia. The April Brent crude futures contract was down 33 cents or 0.3% to US $98.75 a barrel at 10:45 GMT, after climbing to as high as $101.99 US. Russia's invasion of Ukraine yesterday caused prices to surge above $100 US a barrel for the first time since 2014, with Brent touching $105 US before paring gains by the close of the trade. Now, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and allied producers, including Russia, meet on Wednesday to decide whether to stick with plans to increase their April output target by 400,000 barrels per day. Let's have a look at your economic indicators. The Namibian dollar held its own against most currencies but lost some ground against the euro. On the NSX, MTC stocks are down while Capricorn stocks are up. Now, Trustco is down, as is the local and overall indexes. In the commodity market, oil as well as copper are up, while gold and zinc are down. After the break, we'll take a look at this weekend's weather.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
All right, as promised, let's look at what you can expect with regards to the weather. For Saturday, Katima Mulilo is the hottest at 35 degrees, while the capital will be between 18 and 31 degrees. Rehoboth is the coolest at 15 degrees, and Mariento, Ariansvlei and Luderitz are at 38 degrees. Now, on Sunday, most of the north are in low 30s with scattered showers predicted from Tsumeb to Windhoek. There are clouds predicted for the Central Coast, and Ariansvlei at 40 degrees will be the hottest in the country. Oh, wear that cap and, have an umbrella if you're in Ariansvlei. It's going to get really hot out there. Speaking of hot, it has been heating up between Russia and Ukraine. More on that in your international news after the break. Now, in your international news, missiles pounded the Ukrainian capital on Friday as Russian forces pressed their advance, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pleaded with the international community to do more, saying sanctions announced so far were not enough. Air raid sirens wailed over the city of 3 million people, where some were sheltering in the underground metro stations, a day after Russian President Vladimir Putin launched an invasion that has shocked the world. A senior Ukrainian official said Russian forces would enter areas just outside the capital Kiev later on Friday, and that Ukrainian troops were defending positions on 4 fronts despite being outnumbered. US and Ukrainian officials say Russia aims to capture Kiev and topple the government, which Putin regards as a puppet of the United States. Russia launched its invasion by land, air, and sea on Thursday, following a declaration of war by Putin in the biggest attack on a European state since World War II. Putin says Russia is carrying out a special military operation to stop the Ukrainian government from committing genocide, an accusation the West calls a baseless fabrication. He says Ukraine is an illegitimate state whose lands historically belong to Russia, a view which Ukrainians see as an attempt to erase their more than 1,000-year history. Now, Britain said Moscow's aim was to conquer all of Ukraine, and its military had failed to meet its main objectives on the first day because it failed to anticipate Ukrainians would resist. It's definitely our view that the Russians intend to invade the whole of Ukraine, Defense Secretary Ben Wallace told Sky. Now, a democratic nation of 44 million people, Ukraine voted for independence at the fall of the Soviet Union and has recently stepped up efforts to join the NATO military alliance and the European Union, aspirations that infuriate Moscow. The UN Security Council will vote on Friday on a draft resolution that would condemn the invasion and require Moscow's immediate withdrawal, though Moscow is certain to veto it. China, which signed a friendship treaty with Russia 3 weeks ago, has refused to describe Moscow's actions as an invasion. Russia is one of the world's biggest energy producers, and both it and Ukraine are among the top exporters of grain. War and sanctions will disrupt economies around the world. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. After the break, your sport. Now, in your sports, Namibia Sports Commission Chief Administrator Freddie Mwea has echoed the same sentiments as the Minister of Sport Agnes Shongarero following yesterday's budget increment, stating that it will come in handy as far as fulfilling some of the obligations. Ministry of Sports, Youth and National Service has been availed $330.9 million for the year 2022-23 and about $879.1 million over the MTEF over 3 years. The allocation in the budget year is 20.5% higher than the preceding year to specifically cater for the renovations of the Independence Stadium. Now, the Federation Club Top 2 competition is set to take place this weekend at the Komastau Stadium as reserve teams are geared to clash for bragging rights. Netball and football teams from different reserves will feature in the tournament that begins tomorrow. Member of Federation Koleka Hange says the teams are fired up and raring to go in what is expected to be entertaining clashes at the highest of levels, as some rivalries will be revived. Now, Namibia National Olympics Committee new Vice President Gabby Arends has expressed gratitude towards the federations and those that voted her into the position. The former shooter has actively supported athletes throughout the Olympic movement by serving on various sport bodies to ensure that athletes' rights and perspectives are taken into consideration. Arends has vowed to serve in her new position with honor. All right, after the break, we're going to get straight into your highlights.
If you're feeling how I'm feeling and you know I won't stop, all we gotta do is take our love to the top. If I got it and you want it and you'll never let it drop, all we gotta do is take our love to the top. I will ride for you, baby, even die for you. When I'm loving you, but my heart don't stop.
Thank you for staying with us over the last 30 minutes. Let's get into your highlights. The verdict of Judge Shafimana Uyeitela in the case of Thomas Florin, expected this Friday, has been postponed to next Friday, March the 4th. Florin, who had filed an application for remission of sentence at the Windhoek High Court, must now wait another week for the verdict. January 2022 tourism occupancy figures collated by the Hospitality Association of Namibia have revealed a decline compared to January last year, emphasizing the need for Namibia to act now and to leave no stone unturned to position itself as an attractive and accessible and desirable travel destination. A report on the impact of COVID-19 on journalism published this week by the African Editors Forum found that the pandemic has accelerated many challenges facing the media industry already. Namibia was one of the 16 countries in which this research was conducted under the auspices of UNESCO. Journalists said they often faced problems with reporting from the field and access to sources, especially at the start of the pandemic. And with that, we have come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 94 every weekday from 7:30 to 8. My name is Ashwin Betty. This has been Sunset News. You shouldn't end your day without us. See you Monday.